So I'll stop there and sorry about the sort of speed of this 30,000-foot overview, but this is just to get things kicked off. And let's have a few minutes of questions. And one thing I will do, but we'll do this through Google poll, is we'll send around a request for what sorts of days and times. We won't send every day and time because initially things have to work for myself and Paula. We'll give you a list of choices to figure out what will work for the most people. Any questions or comments?
Hi, Doug. Great talk. That was a fantastic overview. Just kind of for anyone who is interested in requesting banked samples, what is the procedure for the ADRC?
Oh, great. Okay, so we have an online request form that asks for a number of different aspects. We'd like to know who the requester is, obviously. Do you have funding? What is the source of the funding? Are you using a validated assay? Because we've sometimes had requests for assays that are not particularly good. What kind of sample do you want? Blood or brain or CSF? How many samples and what volume of samples do you want? Do you need additional data, clinical data, genetic data, and so forth? What is the hypothesis that you are hoping to try and test? And then once we have this information, we have a review committee that looks at the request. We may come back and ask the investigator some initial questions. And then if we have the samples to support the request, and if it seems reasonable to us, we will generally approve it. We've tried to support as much research as possible. We will often, for some investigators, we can share samples without an MTA. I think if you are very closely affiliated with the ADRC, but generally we do need to have an MTA, which is a little bit burdensome, but we spend some time to generate it through a UCSD process. And then we give you the samples.
Great, thank you.
And Emily just placed the links in the chat, so you can mark those if you want to request samples. And I think that Casimir had a question.
Thank you for the excellent presentation and overview. Just a quick question about the overlap of different pathologies, which often occur in advanced stages, and specific biomarkers for that. Is that also part of your consideration in this?
Yes, absolutely. So when we don't tend to draw CSF from anyone with advanced AD. We will have plasma. We've published a study of autopsied patients where we had plasma within 3 years of death. We don't go into nursing homes to draw plasma, so there will be some limits. But with some of the newer biomarkers, for example, the seeding aggregation assays for alpha-synuclein, it's possible to look at controls and MCI patients and to get an idea of how early these changes occur. And we have some data, but there are some incredibly interesting data emerging from ADNI and other cohorts on alpha-synuclein. We don't have a good TDP-43 marker to be able to do this sort of tracking yet. We're hoping that this will come about, and that would be a wonderful way to begin to try and make a guess in living folks as to when these things are changing.
Hi, Doug. Thank you. What a great presentation. I was curious to hear any thoughts about EEG or physiologic, sort of neurophysiologic markers, and what the utility of those might be in this field.
So that's the wrong interest group. We're talking about fluids right now, but we are interested in neurophysiology and EEG. We haven't done it at scale in the ADRC, and we need enough people to be interested. And we already burden our participants with all sorts of different things. If we're going to ask them to put on EEG electrodes, we'd want it to be done as easily as possible and for a reasonably short time, and have some investigators that have enough interest to want to do this. Certainly it would be a reasonable thing to undertake and put together. Okay, I think we're pretty close to the hour anyway. So you're welcome to email Paula and me with any other questions you have. As I said, too much stuff to cover reasonably. One thing we may poll you on as well is if we do have future meetings, some of the things we can do are we can have an investigator present on an analysis they've published or an analysis in progress. So they can show their emerging data. That's one possibility. We do this at the Cognitive Interest Group a lot. We could do a journal club where somebody picks a couple of papers and discusses them for whatever reasons. Or we could pick a topic that we think we're interested in. It could be omics in Alzheimer's or omics in something else, for example, and have somebody step forward and put together a talk followed by discussion, and we can do all of these. I would just be curious, and again, we're not going to take a straw poll through Zoom, but we'll poll you also when we find out what days as to what sort of interests people have in this type of thing. And here we'd really love to engage postdocs and trainees and people like that as much as we can.
And if you know other people that might be interested, ask them please to email Doug or myself so they can be included in these email lists, so they can also reply to that poll and really kind of grow this group, which I'm very impressed of the success of this first meeting with almost 60 participants. So thank you very much for joining.
Right, thank you everybody. This is a wonderful kickoff and we'll get a lot of momentum going.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks.